All right, guys, we're back. We are reacting to Dune Part 3, and I am going to valiantly try not to spoil Pete for the books. Um, we'll see if I succeed. Hold on, let me make sure I can actually hit the play button.
It looks a little more like Tatooine than anything. I know this is all foreshadowing, Belle,
Oh, yeah.
but I
Oh,
never read the
yeah.
books.
Again, having read the books, I'm like,
Mm. See, I've never gotten this far in a Dune movie miniseries.
Come on, did you catch Alia?
I did, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still like, there's a lot of stuff to fit into this story.
Yeah.
Is that
Skytell.
right? This is an interesting look.
I thought that was one of the best lines. Your father,
Yeah,
Yeah, but
your father.
who's the reason that he started the war?
Yeah, her.
Her.
Yeah, no, I know it.
I am excited for Dune Furiosa.
My
Consider,
man.
considering with the fate of that character, it was well cast. Because I can see
Yeah.
how she'll be able to cover the whole range of that character's arc.
Listen, my mom was like, and I'm like, you don't remember how Duncan's back? She's like, no. And I'm like, I don't even know if I want to tell you now.
Mm.
Oh, okay. I have lots of
Dun.
thoughts. So Doom Part Three, one is releasing a lot sooner than I was expecting. I did not think we were going to get a December 2026 announcement.
Are
Having
you
said
emotionally
that,
ready?
I am very concerned. I mean, one, I'll say I'm a Doom fan,
Big Dune fan. Same.
so we put my Chris knife back. So having said that, what made the first two Doom movies of this generation successful was that they decided to not try to tell the entire story of Dune in one movie, which is what David Lynch's
Thank
Dune
you.
what was about. My worry with this is that we're now stepping away from that because you are doing two books in one movie now. You're doing Dune Messiah and Children of Doom, and there's
Yep.
a huge time jump. There are all kinds of consequential things that happen. Like
Yeah.
Dune Messiah is kind of like the Empire Strikes Back of the early part of Dune because it's where you can
Yep.
tell that none of this is going to work out well. And Children of Dune is very much the it didn't work out well. And here's what proceeded to happen after everything did not work out well. And so to take all of that and slam it together and stuff like Duncan, Idaho, where I'm kind of like, I don't know how
Woo!
anybody who didn't read the books is going to be able to understand like the machinations behind that character's return and what it means and what it doesn't and how much of Duncan is there and da, 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 da. There's so
Yeah.
like Frank Herbert put so much thought into all that, and then Belle, I'm sitting here snickering because I'm kind of like, so we're gonna do all this. How many movies is it gonna take for you to do God Emperor Doom? Because if it makes a movie, I know they're not gonna stop. And I know you could go. And I mean, the advantage of Frank Herbert was he kept resurrecting characters over over the course of the story.
It's so funny you should say that because I saw when they were tagging it the epic conclusion, and I was like, "Well, no, this is the conclusion." And my mom was like, "Aren't there 6 books?" And I was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "This isn't the conclusion. The only way that that works is if this is the conclusion of a specific character story,
Yes.
which God Emperor of Dune and Children of Dune or Dune Messiah." And Children of Dune, it is the conclusion of a very specific character story. Um, so if it's the conclusion, then yes, it's the conclusion of that character story. And the fallout of it being the end of that character story reverberates through the rest of the books for everything that comes after. The so many people do not handle that character dying well at all. And so I'm like, if that's what you guys are going to go with, that's fine. But don't make it like the way you're saying that this is the end of the story. And I'm like, this is not the end of the story. This is like the beginning of the next level of, excuse my language, fuck shit that's about to happen in these books. So I'm like, come on, guys. I don't. Do I think it's going to be an amazing movie? Yes. Do I think it's going to wrap up this story in a way that I am going to like? I do not know because there is so much story to tell. And the biggest thing about this is that because they brought Duncan back in this one, him and Aaliyah being fully present in this movie, I'm like, that's kind of a huge deal. That's a
Yes.
huge thing, those two being in this movie and being featured so heavily. Those two being there, I gotta send you a meme that Carlos sent me when we're not online. But there is, yeah, Duncan and Aaliyah being in this specific one, and then mentioning Dynama and Leto.
Because
I'm like,
okay, and
oof,
Belle, to that point, there's literally one really major significant character that you can bump off, and the rest of the story is everybody else who's left. And when you talk about, you know, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Here's a 30-year-old hint. They have twins. It's a boy and a girl. Both of the names they mentioned are exactly who shows up. The fact
it's
that
so
they're
funny because my mom was like, Star Wars really did take everything from this book. And I'm like, yes, it did.
yes, it did. But so no, it's in Children of, and I guess you know what the thing is, Bill. I feel like when you read the original Dune book, if the story had just ended there, you would have been left with one really different impression. Like it's funny, Dune is to science fiction kind of what Watchmen is to comic books in terms of do not wish for messiahs and superheroes. For if we had them, things would go so dramatically worse. And
Yeah.
so but you don't get to that moment till Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, where you
Yep.
really understand that it's like human beings with the best of intentions, wielding powers beyond all human comprehension, will inevitably be as frail and jacked up as human as everybody else, and they will make horrible decisions under impossible circumstances because no human was ever intended to be able to do any of the crap that they're doing.
Yep.
And that's a lot of story to have to cover. The base Dune story looks almost pathetically easy. Because the base Dune story looks like Game of Thrones in outer space. Dune Messiah and Children of Dune is a existential conversation about the nature of religion, how religion can pervert and can destroy things,
Mm-hmm.
about when people fail to treasure their relationships and how that falls apart. What happens to children without guidance? What happens when everybody knows somebody they love has a problem and everybody chooses to ignore and deny it? Um, it's so layered and so thick that I'm just like, if Belle, I'll say this and I want to hear what you guys have to say. I could take everything I saw in this trailer if you just take one thing out, the epic conclusion.
Literally, that is the same thing I said when I watched it. I was like, I wish you guys hadn't added that. I wish you hadn't added that. I wish you had just never said that, because knowing what is to come, this is not this is literally, we have opened the door to the bigger universe. Um, Pete, as somebody who has never read the books, I mean,
There it is.
you've
Um,
never read a single book in
well,
this group,
as
right?
and I just appreciate being the person that you're talking, like that you're talking this whole book around this whole book for the benefit of me. So I feel special. But I know enough nerds, and I'm married to a Dune nerd, and so there are definitely characters. There are things that like I feel like I understand from a really surface level because I've only seen the movies. Like I saw what the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, and obviously the original Dune, and then the two movies so far. And so I have sort of a passing understanding of everything, but it does feel like there's a shift after that first story is told of like how weird things are and how like, for lack of a word, supernatural they are, and it gets, and like how that all comes into play. It's like Dune, that original story that keeps getting retold is just sort of like an introductory novel, like the preamble, the zero issue, and so I'm interested to see where it's going, but it also is like I expect to be fully confused by all of this, just as I am when anyone in my life for the past 40 years has tried to explain Dune to me, starting with my dad.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what Dune is. You have to see it for yourself. For yourself. I
I'm not
mean,
even
Don't red pill
truly,
Dune for me.
truly.
no. Look, in God's honest truth, there are a handful of pieces of pop culture that I'm just like, I don't think you can really navigate it without having read the book. I loved Dune. I saw 1984 Dune as a child. I watched it consistently over the years. It was an absolutely amazing movie. It sparked my childhood curiosity about so many
Yep,
things. And then I read the book and I was like, these two things are not remotely related. I love them. I love them both.
exactly.
But Dan, has there ever been an adaptation that was that different from the source material? And between the Sci-Fi Channel's Dune and Dune miniseries that did a really great job with young James McAvoy,
Yep.
um, and these series of films, I'm just kind of like, Pete, just to respond to something you said. You said the original Dune is like the zero issue, and for people like Belle and I, that's very cute because for us, we're like, oh, it would be the zero issue if the universe was built only on the books of Frank Herbert. But Frank Herbert left notes, and
Yep.
that's where Brian comes in. And now I got to run you back like 600, 700, 800 years so you can understand the reason why. Why are there no computers? Oh, you thought Doom will go and have a story that explain, machines and all that in complicated detail? Oh, there is. Um, so
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, oh man. Now, Belle, can I throw you one curveball real quick?
Sure.
If I'm gonna get a new Doom movie at the end of this year, y'all really should have given me a second season of Doom Prophecy before I got there.
Word. Did And like, you guys, oh, there is so many blanks that needed to be filled in. If you guys are going to do this at the end of this year, I genuinely expected us to get season 2 of Dune Prophecy before we got Dune Part
Yeah.
3. Um, and I know we're getting another season, but I'm just like, oh, guys, like this. The only I wish, I really wish that they hadn't put the conclusion in the trailer. Like, literally, that is just messing me up because I know that this is just the beginning of things getting super weird. And I'm like, and to your point, and my mom and I were talking about this because we were talking about how Duncan was back. And when I reminded her, she was like, oh. And the thing she referenced, and I said, yeah, she goes, huh. everybody really did steal from Dune and from Frank Herbert and from Octavia Butler, didn't they? I said, yeah, every sci-fi property that you have loved for the last 60 to 70 years, dead ass, directly pulls from either Octavia Butler or Frank Herbert. Every single one. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Star Wars or Aliens or Predator. All of them directly pull from Dune. And I'm like, and from the works of Octavia Butler, they are the mom and dad of sci-fi. Even more, I know a lot of people say it's Asma. It's not. It's Butler and Herbert, in my opinion. They are the mother and father of sci-fi, and like, there's so much. There's so many things, and so for them to say that this is the conclusion, just literally, I saw that and I was like, that can't be right. I was like, that must be like. Of course, they dropped the trailer, but my brain was like, there must be a typo.
I mean, Belle, like another movie franchise that we've discussed recently, Dune goes on forever. So there's no need to even put up the epic conclusion. Because my question is, don't you like money? And aren't you Warner Brothers?
Don't you
Y'all
like
need
money?
y'all need money.
Y'all
Y'all
been on
y'all
an epic run of Oscar and Golden Globe and winning films that have actually been financially successful. You guys have had more nominations and wins in the last 5 years. One of the main reasons is because of Dune than you have
so
had in the previous 2 decades. Do you not like money? Now if this means it's the epic conclusion of Denis' version of Dune, which is what I'm taking. I'm guys, I'm trying so hard to figure out how they can fix this mess in terms of how they marketed this, because mm,
because the
just I
only way
don't know.
the only way it works is what you said is Denise is the conclusion of his trilogy, but not
Yeah, but
but
not
not
of the story.
of the story, of which I feel like that actually leaves things in a really difficult place. And the reason why I say that, if you read the books, Dune is a whopper of a book size wise. Dune Messiah intentionally is not.
Yeah.
And Children of Dune is kind of like the next. And Children of Dune isn't actually as meaty as the original Dune is, but it's more than Dune Messiah. And so I say all that to say the characters that you saw in this trailer are not prominent throughout the entire story. At some point, some characters that you see as mainline characters become supporting characters or secondary characters or characters that you will only see in passing. There are other characters who they have very little impact at the front end of the story and have massive impacts on the back end.
On the
So
back
it's
end.
so it's like, in order to kind of cover that, I'm like, I I think it's absolutely impossible to do Dune Messiah and Children of Dune as one thing.
No.
If you're going to say, this is not Dune Part 3, what we're basically doing is doing Dune Messiah 2.1. Give me everything up to the point where we're going to introduce the characters of Children of Dune and end the movie there. And then if Denis
And I
doesn't,
hope that that's what they do. And then they give it like 10 years, dead ass, and then pick up. I would rather they do that than rush. What were you going to say, Pete?
That's kind of it. Like, the more you guys talk about it, the more it feels sort of they took the smart route with Dune to be able to take the time to tell this story at the pace it needed to be told. And then this feels like the literal opposite. And I don't know. To me, it that signals a kind of desperation or like a fear. Like, are we not going to be able to get all these actors back? So we got to take one quick run at it. It's I don't really know what to expect. I'm gonna go anyway because I've enjoyed the first two Dune movies, and the thing we do here is pick these things apart as much as we can. But I do hope that it doesn't feel just like stupidly rushed, uh, because the whole point of the first two movies was, all right, let's tell the story the best way possible. I love the comparison you made from Dune to to Watchmen, because I think the other important similarity is that nobody seems to know how to get it right. Although, the HBO miniseries was incredible, but it does feel like, there's it's really hard to get these two things right, because it's almost like they're, you know, it the creative minds behind it like have not kind of allowed for it to trans to, to go beyond the media that it was written for, and everything else is just sort of a another person's take on a very strongly opinionated work on its own.
No, and I think Pete, that's true. I mean, not to get too deep into the lore of the books, but it's Brian. Frank Herbert spent the better part of 2 decades do like researching and creating the ideas behind which before he articulated Dune, and could barely get it originally published. And I think the challenge with this material is that and Belle, you as somebody who's read more of the series than I have. It's the books themselves are so weighty. Like you read the first Dune book and you don't jump into reading Dune Messiah. You need like a week or two to process what the hell just
You
happened to
need
you.
longer than a week. It took me when I initially read the books, and I shouldn't have read them when I read them. I was like 13 or 14 when I first read them. And it took me about 2 months to pick up the next book because my brain was, it rewired my brain. It's
Yeah,
the best way I can explain it. It rewired my brain, and I had to sit with, my mom and I had multiple discussions
Hmm.
about what I had just read. And so, no, these books are not, you, again, I keep going back to Butler and Herbert. Their writing is not for the faint of heart, and there is not for people who are not ready to have your entire brain chemistry just rewritten. And one of the things you said, Pete, that was really, really insightful was it is because these books are so dense, because there's so many characters, because there's so much lore. Um, Tolkien is another one who you have this level of lore and notes. It does make it hard to make this in this medium, in the medium it wasn't originally meant for. And but at the same time, it's so visually descriptive. The books are so visually descriptive that anyone with even a spark of imagination is going to want to see what that would actually look like in real life. um I think that Denis has done an amazing job. I hope that this is what I think it is, which is it is the conclusion of this trilogy. And I pray that they use the smart, that when that they do what Armand says. They have the twins born at the end of this film, and then they wait. And they don't rush it, because the temptation of Russia, especially if this movie makes all of the money, which it probably will, the temptation of Russia is so there, but rushing it would be a disservice not only to the original IP, but to the people who are fully invested, the people like Armand and I, who wanted to see this so much that we watched June 84 over and over and over and over and over again growing up, and who watched the miniseries on the Sci-Fi Channel, and who love these books. It would be a disservice to the fans. Take the time. Take the time. If George Lucas could wait 20 years between Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace, you can wait. You have much better to work with. You have literally decades worth of books. It's worth it to wait and do it right. Um, I would be fine with that. I would be fine if that's what they do with this film, and it wraps up the character who I'm thinking of storyline
mm-hmm.
in the way that it does in the books, where it becomes the fallout from that character's death affects everything that happens. I'm fine with it. I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And I guess the only thing I'll add, Belle, is that what my actual worry is that if this film isn't successful, and the reason why I say that is because Dune is hard sci-fi. And on that level, it is of the Isaac Asimov tradition. There will be lots of cool, interesting things to look at. But it's kind of like I'm intentionally distracting you with all the cool stuff, to drag in front of you all these weightier existential, issues and concerns. And I'm kind of like, we really don't get hard sci-fi movies anymore. For you younger people, like, I can just tell you the 70s and 80s for us, like the Buck Rogers outer space stuff was not the stuff that was hitting. It was all hard sci-fi. And that's kind of what attracted so much of us to it. We didn't get like action sci-fi until like the Terminator and Aliens. That was kind of the beginning of that. So this is such a thoughtful series. And I think there are a handful of franchises where, especially with me being a writer, you look at the result of the creative effort that a writer put in, and you realize that some writers can do with fiction what other people can't do with a nonfiction story. And I think you have to remember Brian Herbert spent decades crafting this story. I can tell you as a writer, the fact that his notes were copious enough for his son to write like 6 books off his.
Frank, you said
Oh,
Brian Fry's the
sorry,
son.
Frank.
Frank, yeah.
Frank, yeah, sorry. But for Brian to write like 6 books off of his father's notes, it just goes to how much time and energy was invested and how sophisticated and complicated Dune really is. Because really, it is probably one of the greatest pieces of fiction exploring the kind of the human need to try to supersede what we are and what the consequences of that are, and merging that along with this conversation about humanity's desire to have hero figures and messiahs, and our tendency of organizing ourselves around religion, when all these things have always historically been inexorably tied to the heartache of human existence. And so Dune kind of covers all of that, and in order to get to where we need to, which is, I don't think we can end until we get to God Emperor Dune, because that's really the full kind of, to me, that's like the full expression of kind of the idea, and that's before we get into some of the other stuff. But you have to get to the point where it's like, there's a great line from one of our favorite movies, The Dark Knight. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful kind of story beat that I won't spoil for anybody, but it tells you something when a hero gets to a place where he's like, I've got to be the villain, not just the villain. I've got to be Satan. I got to be Satan for a long time to put humanity in a position where they will never allow another me to ever exist again. I have to be absolutely villainous with purpose
Yep.
to break the cycle. And you can't get to an epic conclusion of all that in
In a
3 movies.
three-hour movie. You just can't. Well, guys, that is our analysis of the Dune Part 3 trailer. Um, we shall see what we see. The best way I can put it, and hope for the best. I'm glad to see all of our actors back, and I guess we will see what happens next. On that note, this is Belle with Pop Culture Uncovered. You can find us at PC Uncovered on Instagram and Threads, popcultureuncovered.com, Pop Culture Uncovered on Facebook and Tumblr and Patreon, where I believe our deep dive analysis into all of the previous Dune properties is now up on Patreon for our paid and unpaid members. And you can join for as much or as little as you like. All right. Thank you, guys. Peace.
Give me my season 2 of Dune Prophecy. Stop playing with me.
Yes.